This is the EG Milan. It's a speed pedelec, decidedly city-oriented, and really potentially a good commuter because it's got the rack, it's got the full-length plastic fenders with the mud flaps and everything, front and rear, and this nice, it's a little bit more basic, but you know, a suspension fork. It's got lockout, so if it's really smooth and you don't want to lose power to that bobbing motion while you're pedaling, you can lock it out. I really like that it has an integrated headlight here by Spinninga, that's Kendo. It's got the reflective sidewall stripes on those tires. And then it's also got a Spinninga rear light. This one uses 2 AA's, so it's not wired in. It's pretty easy to just turn it on and then forget, and that will run your batteries down. So just be conscious. I think it actually has a light sensor built in, so it's the kind of thing that might be able to just kind of operate itself. It's not dark right now, and I haven't been able to get that to go through experimentation. I love that they also have this smoked chain cover. It just keeps your pants a little bit cleaner. I did notice that this one, maybe it's not perfectly aligned because there's a little bit of rattling. It's kind of coming into contact with one of those front sprockets. There are 3 at the front and 9 in the rear. So this is a 27-speed bike, which is pretty awesome. There are very few electric bikes that I test and review with that many gears. It's just give you more options for pedaling cadence, whether you're climbing or hitting those higher speeds. Of course, as I said, it's a speed pedelec, so you can go well over 20 miles per hour. They say up to 30. I've gotten it around 26, 28, just in the neighborhoods and stuff, trying to be careful and keep an eye out. This comes in 2 colors, which I really like. There's this bright white, and then there's kind of like a silver metallic color. With the white, you get that matching suspension fork. One thing that doesn't match is the battery pack. They're both just kind of silver, or at least that's what I saw in the shop. I can't confirm that. It's not too bad. I mean, you see that not only is it a different color, but it also bumps out a little bit more. So for an integrated battery pack, it's not quite as stealthy. It doesn't blend in quite as well. I also noticed that it was difficult to get it off. So you see there's 2 key ports. There's one for the ignition and then another one for the battery. You have to turn it and then pull pretty hard. It does have this plastic handle, but I'm not gonna do it right now because I don't wanna like drop it accidentally. This is a 48 volt, 10 amp hour pack. I believe it has Samsung cells. You get a year-long warranty on the bike, which is pretty cool. EG is totally, seems like value. They give you a lot of stuff, but some of the components are a little more basic. The design in this case is kind of cool, but it's also like you only get one size. 19 inches here on the seat tube, which is sort of big for, I almost call this like a mid-step. Yeah, it's a step through technically, and it is a little bit stronger with those 2 tubes, but you do have to lift your leg a little bit higher. I have the standover height, the reach, and all those other details and stuff back at the full written review. But I think the reason they did the extra tube there is because it is so heavy. This is 62.5 pounds on this bike. That's a lot. And it still kind of like flexes a little bit when I've been riding, and maybe that's because they compromised a little bit of the integrity on that down tube in order to get such a large and relatively heavy battery on there. I believe that's 7.4 pounds. A lot of the Bosch batteries and other independent packs that I weigh, they aren't as large as this. A lot of those are like 3611, so again 4810, way more watt hours. There's just extra weight. Then it's like, how do you manage that weight? Where do you put it? I love that it's still relatively centered and low, and that's powering this 500 watt internally geared rear hub motor. Definitely smaller and lighter than if this was a gearless direct drive. It's not super torquey when you take off the line. I believe this may be a Downtube motor. I wasn't able to find any markings or anything. I just heard that when I was doing some research. And I think it's geared for speed, so this can be a speed pedelec. But as a result, if you're trying to climb from standstill, or even if you're just starting and you hit that trigger throttle, it's just like it takes a minute. It's not quite as zippy. And I guess that's a trade-off if you want to hit those higher speeds. I do like that. I think these are 12 gauge spokes in the rear, stainless steel, extra sturdy to support the weight of both the motor, but also this rack, which has a 25 kilogram max weight limit. It looks like it's a little bit larger than standard gauge, but it would probably still work with those clip-on panniers, and you've got a bit of a pannier blocker here. Definitely looks wider than a lot of the racks that I see though. Some of them are really narrow. This one's extra wide, so it could be a good platform for like a trunk bag. And again, if you had 55 pounds on this, plus just the weight of the bike and riding, I can see why they use the higher gauge spokes. I think even the front spokes are like 13 gauge versus 14, so the lower the number, the thicker, the sturdier. Love that there's quick release on the front wheel, not on the back because you've got all the extra wires and stuff. You've got mechanical disc brakes, 180 millimeters. Tektro Aries, not like the highest end Tektro brakes, and I did actively squeeze them to stop because I got going pretty fast, and it wasn't nearly as responsive as some of the hydraulic disc brakes and downhill bikes I've been testing lately. There is a difference in the different levels, but you're paying $21.99 for this bike. So getting a speed pedelec at just over $2,000 with that kind of like battery capacity is pretty cool, you know, and all those extra features and stuff. Yes, some of them aren't quite as nice. It's not wired in. But, you know, you get the kickstand, you get the decent Welgo pedals. These aren't quite as large as the ones I really like, but they're better than plastic for sure. And just 27 speeds, I mean, that's hard to argue with. One thing that I did not like about all the shifting is that, I don't know if it's just how far the wires have to go or if it's this bike in particular, but I had to push pretty hard on the shifters in order to change gears. It wasn't like, it was like, I really had to push. And of course, one's easier when you're shifting back down. When you're shifting up, though, it was just a little bit more effort. Shimano Alivio back here, and it looks like 11 to 32 teeth. So you have plenty of range there. And again, some of the rattling and stuff when you're riding, you could completely remove that if you wanted to. But I like that you've got some different options here and that it all looks pretty good from the get-go. The other area that's a little bit custom is the headset and the stem. So you can see this is Pro Max. It's really short, but it is adjustable angle. And I think they went with short because there is a pretty good reach on this thing. Like, it's already kind of large for a step through. And, you know, you can adjust that angle. This is the Milan. I think they also have the Bali, which is very similar. I measured them. It's also about a 19-inch frame. The reach is slightly different, maybe like a half an inch different. That's a full suspension bike and costs a little bit more. But they kind of use the same battery pack and the same high-speed motor and everything like that. So for comfort, if you're going further and you're going faster, I think it'd be worth considering the trade-off between these two, like how much extra are you willing to pay? Because otherwise they're very similar, and I'm going to review that separately and just test it out. I tend to prefer full suspension because you're kind of sitting there, but this is a little bit more forward leaning the way it's set up. You've got like a really low rise handlebar, semi-ergonomic grips. This one's like twisting off a little bit here. You know, no lockers, a little bit cheaper. Trigger throttle. I love that the trigger throttle actually overrides assist, and assist is powered by you. It's sort of a torque sensor right here, I believe. So one of the challenging elements of this bike is you can be on it kind of standing there, and if you put your foot down, like let some of your weight on it, like it'll kind of take off on you. So it's nice to remember that you can use these brake levers with the cutoff. They have the integrated motor inhibitor just to keep you stable so you don't accidentally start to the bike get away from you. So yeah, I think maybe I should just turn this thing on and walk through that. So I've taken the key out of the battery slot. This on-off switch, I don't think it matters. I think that just turns on the little LED power level meter. So if you were transporting this or storing it for a long period and you wanted to reduce phantom draw, I think you could turn it to off. So the key's in. We turn it, maybe this is on. And then the power button up here. Oh, nope. There we go. Turn it to on. Power button. Hey, there we go. Okay, so it's flashing for a couple seconds. 4 bars on that battery level indicator. Not super precise, but you know, it's decent. Speed in miles per hour right now. We've got a trip meter and then an odometer. You can cycle between those by just pressing the power button. So total trip distance. If you hold up on the button pad, it'll turn on backlighting, and that activates the headlight as well. So it's neat that that one's all integrated. I think that's kind of it. It's simple. This is fixed, so you can't really take it off or anything. If you were going to use this as a commuting platform, you hope that no one like scratches it, or over time the sun and stuff might wear it down a little bit. I haven't really seen this before, this Landian, but it looks similar in appearance to some of the other displays I've seen out there from King Meter and stuff. Because they use these trigger shifters and because they have them on both sides, they've had to make some trade-offs. Like, you'll notice the trigger throttle is mounted in front of the trigger shifters here, so you end up having to really reach to shift gears, but you've got access to the trigger throttle really close. On the other side, they went with a different design where it's like, oh, the trigger shifters are really close, you have to reach far to change assist level or to operate things. I pretty much leave my bike in like the middle gear when they have multiple rings up front, and then I only use the right shifter. So I might actually like put the throttle over here, but then I use the throttle a lot too. I don't know, it's trade-offs. What I'm trying to get at here is it's kind of crowded up here in this cockpit area. I think they've done the best that they could. But, you know, yeah, this is the trade-off. Like, would you rather have a twist throttle than a trigger throttle? And, you know, maybe they could get like an easier to shift drivetrain and maybe only have a 1x10 since you have electric assist. I don't know. Again, they've done the best they could. If you want a bike with a lot of gears, with high speed, this is one of your best options for the price because it has so many cool extras. Okay, so I think that's it. You can arrow all the way down to 0 and use this like a cycle computer, which is cool. The throttle overrides, so no problem. You can hop on and zip away, and you can arrow all the way up to 5 and get the most assistance, and throttle still works. So I love that you can use either of those at any time. I like that, you know, a lot of the wires are kind of integrated through the frame right here and up here. They're kept mostly out of the way, but they are exposed, like some of the shifting and brake cables down there. Otherwise, it's a pretty clean bike. So there's some quirks, definitely some quirks on this bike, but you're saving some cash. So I think I might just hop on this thing and zip around a bit. And before we get going, this is what the battery charger looks like. It's 2 amps, it weighs 1.5 pounds, so slightly heavier than some of the other ones I've seen, but definitely still portable. The plug comes out on this side, so you can make it even more compact if you want to. And that battery pack can be charged on or off the frame. There's the little cover, little rubber cover, so that's kind of nice. Okay, so I'm in the highest level of assist right now. I think I'm just gonna pedal around. You might hear the clicking of that chain guard, but just try to ignore it and look for how the motor's operating when I pedal. Whoa, there we go. It's actually pulsing a little bit right there. I think because we were starting, we weren't even on a hill or anything, but because it's geared to be fast and not powerful, the motor was like rah, 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 instead of really kicking in. Now it's going. So that works all right. You know, the torque sensing means that I have to put in a little bit more effort when I'm riding, but that's also going to extend the range. So it's always a little bit of a trade-off, and I love that you can just juice that throttle. There we go. That's the EG Milan. For the full write-up on this and some of the other EG electric bikes, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. As I was saying before, you can see my foot is resting on that torque sensor, and it was kind of giving me the little bit of the jolts a second ago. So just be aware of that. I don't think it's a huge deal because it's not a super powerful motor at those low speeds. Anyway, in conclusion, ride safe, you know, be careful with this thing. Maybe you've got it, maybe you've got the Bali, you've got some feedback you want to share, definitely chime in. And yeah, all the stats and stuff will be at the site. Later.